Right, good. Excellent. So again, welcome everyone. It's nice to see a packed room for something that has been an exciting journey for myself as well as those at Deutsche Bank. When it comes to Tableau's disruption, which is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. It's something that actually impacted the way that we did business intelligence at Deutsche Bank. All right, we're back. So again, today the topic is on the Tableau Center of Practice. It's another fancy word for a center of excellence, one that we adopted because we know practice makes perfect. So that's something we're going to be working with and talking with all of you, and hopefully it'll be enjoyable for you. I'll be joined on stage, or we'll be co-staging this with Armin Rothhauser. Armin manages or co-head of our structured financing. And I'm the Tableau Center Practice Manager, as well as I'm a BI Product Manager. And I'll talk a little bit about that when I come up here in just a moment. But at this moment, I want to hand over to Armin, as he's going to talk a little bit about how Tableau came into Deutsche Bank, how it impacted his area and his area specifically when it comes to finance, and exactly what were the challenges that they faced, which would then introduce why the Tableau Center of Practice was so needed. So I'll turn it over to Armin.
Thanks, Sal. All right, guys, so I think what I want to do here is to tell a little story about what happened at Deutsche Bank. You know, we were, I think like a lot of people in this room, all right. Okay. We okay? Thank you. So we had problems like that at the beginning of implementing Tableau.
It might be me being too close.
Lots of feedback, negative feedback. So I was just telling a story, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about kind of what we've done and just a little bit of the background. I run a big business at Deutsche Bank, 350 people, and work in the front office. I have traders that work for me. I have loan originators. I have people that basically originate business for the bank, and so I came to Deutsche Bank about 5 years ago, coming from another Wall Street organization, Goldman Sachs. And when I did that, I inherited, like many of us, when you work at a big company, I inherited data that was old, stale, broken, et cetera. And I was working in a risk business, inherited one of the largest risk businesses at Deutsche Bank had when I first joined. And I was really struggling with how to look and see our data, really kind of on a timely basis, in a way that was comprehensive to be able to think about how we manage our risks and how we manage our people around those risks. And the real challenge we had was that we sat in many geographical different locations. We sat in a variety of booking systems, et cetera, and it just really didn't work together. So we ended up coming up with a plan as to how are we going to fix this, and it was really an immediate need. So at first we went to our traditional IT department. This is 4 years ago, and said, can you help us? And the answer was, we can build something for you, but it's going to take a long time, right? Anytime you want to change something, it's going to take a long time. So I didn't have the time for that. I needed to really deliver results, starting a new job, et cetera, and seeing really a problem with the way the bank looked at and managed its risk. And so we reached out to one of our consultants who recommended Tableau, and Tableau was really our fix to sit on a variety of different systems, et cetera. And so we ended up really, and this is I actually came to the Tableau conference 3 years ago, and really sat in one of these sessions and listened to a bunch of people from a variety of companies talk about how they got Tableau to work. And I got the idea from that conference, which was to accelerate the idea from the conference, which was we couldn't get the IT department to really do anything, right? So we ended up doing, and it sounds like there's some familiar faces to that and are familiar grins, but I think what we ended up doing is we tried to do it on our own. So we did it from the business's perspective. We brought Tableau on our own servers, and we did it from a regulatory and compliance perspective correctly, but we didn't really have the support of IT when we first did it. And there was a lot of challenges and pushbacks because people were really concerned around, there's jobs associated with these non-self-service business intelligence tools, and it ended up being really, really challenging for us to deliver. So we took the kind of what I like to call the Trojan horse method.
And another one there. There you go.
We ended up really, it was sort of a, Trojan horse grassroots is kind of how we thought about it. But we really connected to all of the source systems that sit within our organization and then worked with all of the folks that sit in the organization from legal and compliance, risk, technology, operations, our senior management team, and our core vision team of really 3 or 4 developers that were developing workbooks for our needs. But I think the one key component around this is, and I think a lot of people struggle with this, a lot of folks that are in this room are new to Tableau, but some aren't. But we have currently, which you'll see on our next slide, we have now, I think we're over 8,000 users, and it's rapidly growing. So we think we're going to be at 20,000 in the next year and a half. And it just, what I wanted to highlight is that there's 2 ways to approach it. We have a lot of clients that use Tableau, and we ask them the questions, and when we come to these conferences, we ask the same questions, which is, what is the best way to get your data fixed? And Tableau being our best solution for it, which is, do you take the corporate board, push down from the top, this is my data strategy, or do you do this grassroots in certain areas that need it, and then push up? And in some cases, you do both. In my organization, the senior management didn't necessarily get the data needs. They didn't understand that you could take something like Tableau, sit it across many, many systems, and create powerful, powerful sets of information for people to save money, to make better decisions, et cetera. And so we had to do it from a grassroots perspective. Now, since we've developed it and we have a center of practice, which Sal's going to talk about in details, is there's a senior management view that from the top down is this is how we need to architecture our data. And so what I wanted to make sure that people are aware is that both ways work. We've seen it work in organizations in both ways, but from our perspective, we started from the bottoms up, grassroots, Trojan horse, and it was successful. We ended up delivering lots of growth and lots of value because of this grassroots initiative. So we took it immediately and started sending out kind of workbooks, and we used a very kind of analog way to do that in the beginning. I think a lot of people are challenged when they start using self-service business intelligence to say, when do I send out the report? We took the view that, and especially in our world where markets move all the time, that the data is never static and is never going to be 100% accurate. And if you take that assumption set, then you don't go and try to fix all the data 100% before you deliver a report to somebody. We took the view that we were like, if we can get data to be 75 to 85% accurate, and again, that was, you can't exactly tell, then we'd start pushing out reports to senior management. We'd push out reports with the views and CC all the people that are responsible for the data, the owners of the data, and literally send out like a PDF or an HTML file with a report that would deliver something that was important to senior management. And you'd be amazed how much faster that fixes the data than having somebody sitting in like a room somewhere saying, I don't really understand this data, let me go fix it first. And that was a very, very powerful tool. That got our data accuracy to close to 98, 99% for almost every report that we'd send out. And because people would call up and like, that doesn't look right? I know how to fix it, it's wrong, we'll fix the source system. So I think that's a really important piece of the puzzle for us was really, and we take that thesis now. Every time we connect to a data source, we try to scrub it to make sure there aren't wild anomalies, but we don't think we can get perfect. And I think that is not necessary that every organization does that. And again, we make sure that we label the reports to be very clear that these aren't actual reports. They're not something you should rely major decisions on. But ultimately, you do end up making decisions based on the reports that you see. And so I think this slide is showing us is that we obviously were able to quickly deploy it. We were able to connect to multiple data sources. And then we had immediate savings from a very low cost footprint. I think the other key point to this is, and this is just a philosophical one, which is there's this whole concept of this crystal clear data lake, right? Everyone has this idea, let's have a data lake. In our organization and a lot of organizations, I don't think crystal clear data lakes exist, right? We sit on top of like dirty puddles and messy streams, right, and swamps, right, of data. And we connect on top of them with Tableau. And so we then try to cleanse some of these muddy waters and settle some of the inefficiencies or the inaccuracies associated with the mud. But we don't ever try to, we have taken many attempts to like cleanse data, make this perfect data lake, and it takes forever, right? It just we never get there. And so we've taken the view, it goes back to kind of the 85% sort of thesis, is that we are going to have data that's not accurate, but the only way to really cleanse the water is to expose it. So this is sort of talking about our grassroots initiative, and when you're going to hear Sal is really kind of the development that's happened since we started this as a grassroots initiative. But we started over 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, really with nothing, right? We had a few users in my team that were, I asked them to sort of step out of and these are people that have, run regular businesses or have regular jobs to do on a day-to-day basis, to become experts of the data and to build and work with our technology teams and our consultants that helped us build these workbooks to really develop the first set of reports that we had as an organization. Again, we're at 7,467 users today. Again, I think that number will probably double over the next year and a half. Because at this point, and this is why you're going to hear from Sal, is it became an organism that we couldn't control from my business, right? I was always helping folks to try to socialize, the success we've had and the benefits we got from Tableau, but it became just unwieldy for us to manage from one part of the business. Deutsche Bank has 90,000 employees, and so my team of 350, couldn't manage, adapting to that. So, I think you're going to see us develop these tools across all geographies, and the challenges around geographical become really, really important, right? You have latency issues. You have, is that person awake who supports the business and from New York to Singapore to answer questions? The other really important point before I hand over to Sal is that we really are now, like, one of our biggest challenges, and we've had this rapid growth, but one of the biggest challenges we've had now is really the plethora of workbooks that just exist. I can't tell you how many sales reports, if I search for sales reports, I have on my screens. I can't find what I'm looking for. And so we've been asking, I'm part of the Financial Service Executive Council as part of Tableau. We meet once every quarter in New York with all these kind of financial firms. And we all have the same challenges. I'm sure it's not just the financial services firms. So we've been asking Tableau to help us develop, sort of a landing page, right, that has thumbnails of things that can be forced to you as reports that you need to see, but also you can create your own favorites, et cetera. We've kind of created our own version of that, and it's kind of a hack, to be honest. But it works because then I can look at a screen, pull up a single web page every single day, and know these are the reports that I can see, and they can push to me what the latest version is. So that's been something that's been challenging for us, and we think it's a challenge for others, at least in our industry. But it's something that you'll see is it's hard to track the right report or which report you want to have, and it becomes you end up creating duplicates, which is inefficient. So the way we've tried to tackle that as well is we've created sort of a social interaction. We don't have a Tableau conference, but we have town halls, effectively, where we have a sharing of ideas, and we have a lot of workshops, which Sal's team runs, which we talk about the types of reports. You go give out anonymized data reports that say, here's the sales report that this team created, and here's the HR report that this team created. So we can try to create the least amount of duplication and the maximum amount of kind of social sharing of really successful reports. And so I think those are one of the ways we've thought about it. We're still in our nascent stages, and are all excited about the artificial intelligence piece of this, of what Tableau is thinking about, and natural learning, language learning, which is going to be super useful kind of on a go-forward basis. But I think that we really believe that the way that this Tableau is happening so quickly is similar to what happened, in the 50s or the 60s, right? I mean, you used to take a piece of paper and you would send it down a chute, and then people in a word processing office would type up a piece of paper and then send it in a memo, inter-office mail, to somebody else. Now we all have Word on our desktops. Now we all have Excel on our desktops to manage numbers. We think that self-service and Tableau is going to be that way, where you will eventually have, everybody will know how to use these tools. And so our thesis is to try to push it to users, end users, as aggressively and quickly as possible. The technology teams are there to support and both, from our perspective, a regulatory perspective, compliance perspective, and to make sure that we have in the most efficient form in terms of the way that we deliver our technology. And so it's really kind of a business-driven process from us. It's been driven by myself. I've been a champion of Tableau at the bank, and I'm happy to pass it off to Sal where it's become too big, and then pass it off to him on this conversation.
All right.
Right. Thanks.
Thank you, Armin. So as you heard, the business at this point in time, from 2016 prior to that, was taking it on themselves to push, to monopolize Tableau, to socialize it among their teams. But again, as you heard Armin said, it grew larger than they anticipated. So they needed some support. And full disclosure to Armin, I don't know if he knew this, but when he talked about IT pushing back, I was the one not wanting Tableau in. But there's a reason for that. There's a reason. Yeah. So as a product manager, I'm responsible for ensuring that we do not have too many products of the same kind, too redundancy, cost, and so forth. And we already had 4 BI products. We had Cognos, SAP, ClickView. There was Spotfire out there. So they were all in there. And then when I heard this Tableau, I'm like, oh, come on. Why do we need another one? What I wasn't prepared for was the social aspect, the visibility that Tableau gave to the business, this whole self-service culture that I was preaching, but we couldn't really get there with the other BI tools, was available with Tableau. When I saw it firsthand, in fact, we did a contest between some developers in Cognos and Tableau, and the Tableau wasn't a developer, just a general business person with a data set, just blew it out of the water. And I knew right then that I could not push back any further. Thus, we took on this task. So you're going to hear a lot about this, and you probably have heard this if you were at the Charles Schwab one and other COEs. You have to plan. So for us, we already had a very mature IT platform managing other BI platforms, but we needed to change our thinking about how we were going to support Armin's group and other groups who wanted to be able to take Tableau, be efficient, be consistent. And to do so, I had to go back to the drawing board. But before that, I had to take a look at what the landscape looked like across Deutsche Bank. In GCT and other areas, I needed to actually talk and find the stakeholders, identify what they really needed from this product to support their businesses. This was some really cold calls. I would talk to them on the phone. I would ask very deep questions about their strategic paths and so forth. And then what I found out, kind of like what you see from the picture, I was just watering one at a time. I kind of saw that there was no way that was going to grow. I needed a larger irrigation system, right? I needed a community to be able to support growth. There was no way we're going to be able to do it just one-off. So this is my brain dump here. This is me locked in a room on a whiteboard, and we have plenty of these whiteboards in our office, where I just started to put everything I could possibly think, good, bad, and the ugly, when it came to business intelligence, self-service. You'll see some really key words that are going to pop out, and they're going to pop out because later on I'm going to show you some of the final product here, but things like governance, training. We have, something in that left corner there, business-orientated professionals. We went through different iterations. Those are really your Tableau champions, those who are embedded in the business, who become Tableau ambassadors and specialists. We needed to identify those as well. But as you can see from this quote, you try to get as many good ideas, get rid of the bad, and you're hopefully left with something that can be very useful. So I'm going to walk through a couple of the prep steps that each one of you can probably take for your individual businesses. These are steps that they go in somewhat sequential order. They don't necessarily have to. But one thing you do need to identify is what we had to do is figure out what personality you wanted to be. Were you going to be heavily on the IT, where you're just managing the administration, or are you going to get your hands dirty? Were you going to actually impact change in the business by giving best practices and governances, be a support team? That's what we had to do. And then from there, we needed to learn from those who were already successful. Teams, not just generally within your own business. So last year, when I was trying to formulate all of this, I heard Jessica Briggs-Sullivan from Charles Schwab. You may have heard her. She's done a couple of these. I listened in because I couldn't come to the conference, and I was just impressed with how she put together a plan of action around creating a center of excellence. So I called her up. I linked in, contacted her. She spent some time with me and my director on exactly some of the steps and lessons learned that would help me. So again, I pass it on to any of you and those who may watch this later on, that it's good to reach out to your peers and find out what they're doing so as to get a better frame of mind. You need to build a plan, a charter, a mission statement, something that will brand you and your team, that will also help generate excitement about what your practice is. You also need buy-in from senior management. You need yourself an Armin. Okay, you got to find yourself an Armin out there. One who, not only at the senior leadership, but who's also passionate about intelligence in the business, insights, growing, being strategic, and in this particular case, using Tableau to be able to do all of that. And that really helps generate even more effectiveness in building your center of practice. The next thing we needed to do is locate and partner your business friendlies. These are those that are inside of the business, both at senior levels or in different parts of your business. For us, we went to look in HR. We wanted to look in the risk teams. We wanted to look in the sales and identify people who would want to partner with us as we push this forward. A good group that we found was our Agile ambassadors. Many groups are developing these Agile methodologies and teaching safe and Agile practices within their business. They are great partners to pick with, to work with self-service like Tableau, because Agile and Tableau really work hand in hand. Then we wanted to begin the relationship with Tableau, and this is where I found a huge advancement to building my vision of the center of practice. Other vendors that I've worked with weren't as embedded with their customers as Tableau is. So I was able to get a strong relationship with individuals like Jeremy Blaney, Peter Varga, Miranda Osterhald. These are ones who are working directly with us. They helped us to kind of identify customer insights that we would not have found on our own. And they were instrumental in getting us where we wanted to be faster. And then one thing that seems to get underlooked is the fact that when you do start a practice like this, like in my team, we did not have Tableau experts. We had BI specialists, but we did not have Tableau experts, or even people who even use Tableau. So the transition there was a little bit rough, especially since I was on the clock for getting this stood up to support Armin and their teams. So we used our BI specialists, but we complemented it with a strong external presence. In this case, it was a consulting company with M2 who helped us to be able to form a lot of different things we needed, such as in training modules, and just being there for things like doctor sessions and workshops, just to help us get started and to move forward. So the Tableau Center of Practice. So what I'm going to show you now is you saw previously that whole brain dump. There was a couple of key things that came out of it that we built on, some pillars. But one thing that I was really passionate about is I wanted a brand. I wanted something that I could put all over communications. I wanted something that stood out. And so what better does that than a logo, right? We all love logos, right? So we had a sort of a small little logo contest, and this was the winner, mixing ours with Tableau. We didn't infringe. They loved it. So. But around this, we built the pillars. So 3 distinct pillars that support our foundation of the Tableau Center of Practice. As you saw, we have things like onboarding and consultation, training, and community support and enablement. And branching off of these are some of the key things you probably do already or want to do. Now, what I'm going to also show you in this particular slide is I'm going to fast forward to some of the milestones. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of the milestones first, and then we'll reverse engineer a little bit about we'll break down these to give you some insight about what we're doing with each one of these pillars. So first off, since we started this in March of this year, we've had 140 engagement requests. And just to put that into context, an engagement is one of our customers, one of our internal customers coming to us who may represent 500, 10,000, but they're coming to us to ask us, they want to get onto Tableau, we need to help them, and we go through a whole process of listening and then providing some guidance. So that turns out to be, we had one team every 2 days coming to my small little intimate team. We had to create a communication channel in order for people to learn and to share, and so we used our own internal intranet site, and I'm going to be showing that in just a moment. We've had 15,000 views since March of people accessing these views to be able to get help. We've had over 800 attend webinars sponsored both by Tableau as well as our own internal champions providing insight to our groups. These are also attending our Tableau user group forums. These TUG sessions are also extremely helpful in not only socializing but collaborating across regions and cross business lines. Then we've had some very special events happen over this year. Just by a show of hands, I'm just curious, how many have actually run a Tableau day or been a part of a Tableau day in their companies? Oh, that's excellent. So for those of you who have, and maybe those who don't, Tableau days are just small little Tableau conferences, right? They run a very similar type of theme. And we were very, very excited about running one. But as you see here, we actually ran 3 this year. And we ran one in New York City where me and Armin helped out with that. And then we did one in Singapore and one in Frankfurt. Over 500 employees attended in general across those. And there was some serious excitement coming out of these teams and the businesses because they never had that. They didn't see this coming to them. No other business intelligence was coming in front of them talking about how they can improve. And then our training. This is something close to my heart. So while we've had the surge of people wanting to learn or get Tableau, they needed learning. It's a self-service tool, but make no mistake, there is a learning curve that has to be applied. And the cost of every employee or everyone who wanted to go out and purchase a training module wasn't cost effective. So we had to learn how to help them internally and give them opportunities to get right on their Tableau journey quickly. So let's take a look at some of these pillars. I'm breaking them down for you a little bit. So the onboarding and consultation. We have a know your customer engagement. This is a 30-minute call that we do with every customer that wants to onboard to our Tableau platform, whether they're doing a desktop or a server. They go through this 30 minutes, and we basically want to know what they're want to use Tableau for. And in some cases, Tableau is not the right tool for them. And that is also helpful as we identify, and then later on, we may bring them back if their situation or requirements change. We also provide a quality gate onboarding protocol to ensure there's some governance principles applied. They understand what the process is for moving from a development or sandbox into a production environment. We do roadmap discussions. Mostly those product roadmaps are done with our senior teams. They help to understand where the strategic path is for Tableau within Deutsche Bank. We do live demos. And then we periodically also do these health checks where we actually listen into what groups have done and help them to get steered in the right direction. Or maybe they're just doing really good, and then we use that to help other teams who aren't. Our next bubble is training. So with the help of M2, as I mentioned earlier, one of our consulting companies, we identified these computer-based training modules that we worked and partnered with them. These are self-paced training modules that allow customers at their own time to be able to go through some desktop 1 or desktop 2 kind of pseudo training modules. And this has been well received by our global community. Then we've had instructor-driven, virtual and in-person training, advanced training on topics such as extending your Tableau capabilities with JavaScript or with APIs. Then we provide offline training materials, which will be stored on our intranet site, and then on-demand Tableau doctor sessions. So the doctor sessions is an interesting one because, again, we're talking about close to 8,000 permissioned users and growing. Calling our hotline for help with a doctor session would have been very difficult to do with just my team of me and 2 other people. So in order for us to accomplish this, we had to expand out and identify our champions in these regional locations. And then we brought them in, gave them some formal training with the help of our consultants, and now they're becoming the champions to address some of their own regional or business-specific questions that are in these doctor sessions. And then finally, the community support and enablement. This is where we do the collaboration events, tugs, Tableau days, Viz contests, all for the purpose of helping people to talk to each other at the same time, learning what they can do to improve their own individual workbooks and dashboards. We use this opportunity to set standards and best practices, provide a centralized content management, that's our intranet sites, and then welcome kits. So the welcome kits are really kind of pseudo community support as well as engagement, because we send out these welcome kits when people are interested, and it tells all about what we are, what we do, how they can help, links to direct them back to the intranet sites, and some helpful hints about ways that they can improve. So now I want to give you a look at our intranet site. So as we talked about, we needed a communication channel. We needed somewhere. And if it was up to me, I would have loved to get a Java developer, a web developer, a design thinker, all in the same room to build this massive, beautiful-looking web application that's intuitive, interactive. I'm just not there yet. So what I had to use was what I had, and that was an intranet site. So with some design thinking and with some help from members of our team, we put together this site. And this is the launching pad that you're looking at here. This is our charter stands out, our logo. And then below there are links to various aspects of the pillars that we were just referencing here. So quick access. The TLC. Everyone needs TLC, right? And this is something that our teams and our businesses across Deutsche Bank have grabbed on because they love training. They thrive for learning. So we started to create a page that directed attention to things like self-training modules, libraries, and video links, either back to Tableau or those that we've actually brought in-house and stored on our own site. This is another page within our Tableau Learning Center. And what's interesting about this is that we've created this training resources page that helps people to kind of gauge when the next training sessions are coming and what to expect. We also have these little submit request buttons that actually send a request through a ticketing system we use to help us to keep things in queue when it talk about requests such as workshops or even these doctor sessions. And when we do get these requests, we identify where they're at, what region they are, and then we respectively push them into the individual champions groups for them to be able to contact them. I made a promise to one of my developers. This little design you see in the corner here, so Luna Kanungo, one of my guys here, he's actually going to be retiring soon, so I'm very sad. But on his side project, he uses Tableau to create art. So everything you see, both in that little corner and the big one, was done using a forget the word. He's using an algorithm to put together this particular images, and he's done a bunch of these. So I think he knows what he's going to be doing when he retires. He's going to open up his own web shop and sell these maybe. But yeah, so training is extremely important and something we've done very seriously. In fact, one of the new things we're going to be doing here is creating this same page across our franchise regions in Asia Pac, in Pune, and in London, as well as in Frankfurt, Germany. The Tableau Journey. So another site that we've dedicated to helping intermediate, introductory, as well as to our advanced, even to our Jedi status. We created a page that will help them to go across these different disciplines. So you would get started, you would find some best practices, how do you connect to data, and then beyond the basics. All of which have links that take you to other information. Maybe it's a wiki, maybe it's a library of some sort. And then, as I said, it's key assets for beginners to experts. And the material is a mix of links, practices, checklists. So one thing I found in here is that people need specific checklists to things like performance, optimizing your performance. What is a good dashboard? And these are simple checklists that you can find on Tableau as well as many places. But it needs to be somewhere where they can get it very quickly. And then beyond our Tableau basics, we start to talk about some of the more advanced things. R and Python are becoming very popular, and one that we will most certainly be addressing both in training as well as in our workshops. Tableau champions. So the idea behind this live discussion board is to use the power of the community to help answer questions. As you can see from the tagline, I don't know if you guys can see it really well, but where each question is a great question, that is a true point. We want people to ask questions, but obviously my small team can't answer every question within an appropriate time. So what we do is we have them ask their question. It gets answered extremely quickly, as we've gotten thousands of people watching this and being able to participate. And they're learning from this as well. It's also our first line of defense. Because many times in the beginning, when I first launched this, I was getting constant phone calls, constant messaging, constant emails on things that maybe I considered simple, but were very difficult for them. And in order for us to break free of that, we had to use this discussion board so that they can ask the question and get answered by their own peers. Some of them were sitting right next to them, they just didn't ask them, right? So they were getting answered through here. But this is an excellent way to also identify who your champions are. So one of the things I'm using this for is when I see a reoccurring person answering questions for whoever they are, I call them up. And I'm like, you're doing really good. I said, would you like to be a part of the Tableau champion? What is that? And we talk about the benefits, and then they get a nice accolade where they send to their manager and so forth. That's how we've been building up this network of champions, by seeing who's helping and who's willing to help. Now what I'd like to do, I know you saw this briefly. Armin had a small snapshot on one of his slides there, but I'm going to give you a live demo, if it will work here. Let's see. Let's go back. All right. I'm on 3. Okay. Hold on. We're going to get there. There we go. Hold 1 second. I guess it doesn't want to show you. All right. Well, it's not popping up here. Give me one moment. Okay. We're almost there. There we go. All right, so I'm using pages to kind of generate the effect of the growth pattern here. And again, this is a live demonstration of the growth. And what you'll see is at certain points here in early 2016 or mid-2016, we adopted it as part of the BI platform. But you'll see a fairly progressive growth as we would expect Tableau to do. But it wasn't until March of this year, when we took on and launched the Tableau Center of Practice, that you're going to start seeing huge jumps, right? I mean, This number right now is already past. We're close to, I think we're close to 8,000. I have my admin back there, Srinivas. Are we close to 8,000, Srini? 8,100. So it's changing as I'm speaking, right? But what this simple little slide should help you appreciate that is the growth is exploded due to the fact that there is some personal attention being done by your internal team with your business and allowing us to be able to help. And in this case, we've seen it across various regions and populations, specifically as you see in our top 5, ranging from the UK all the way down into Singapore. So this is just, I just wanted to kind of give you, it was my way of cool thing. I wanted to showcase this as well. Let me just go back. And let's finish off here. So what are we doing to keep moving forward? Okay, so we've started it. We've got great adoption. What do we do to keep it moving? So a couple of things that I want to talk about and kind of share with you. So the first thing I want to do is enhance efficiency through automation. So one of the things we're looking at is improving automation on our administrative side, creating very near real-time or very proactive administrative views to track the health, performance, capacity, because a growth like this can easily cripple a platform. I mean, we're running around 24 cores right now. We're looking to growing that, especially in light of what we heard from Armin. We're talking about 25,000 users, so we need to be prepared for that. So we need some automation to assist us in tracking our Postgres system and get that out to us quicker. Certified project owners, a program that I will be kicking off in 2019. We need to help, rather strike that, we need them to help us. The project owners who go through our engagement sessions need to understand that self-service does not mean you put your hands up and you just let them go and do whatever they want, right? We need proper governance. We need them to watch what they're doing to help enforce best practices, enforce that they're following proper standards. And that way then we have less issues and less problems with our shared platform. So we're looking to expanding our TCOP strategically. So my small team of 3, what we did is we built a run book where we identified a recipe for this Tableau Center of Practice. And now we're meeting with different groups in these regions to talk about how they can do the exact same thing. We just did a proof of concept with Singapore, and they are now running a Tableau Center of Practice in Singapore, answering questions, doing a lot of what we do, but the overhead is really still on our shoulders. We're handling the engagement requests, we're handling the licensing, we're doing all of the administrative stuff. They're just managing the business in that particular regions. So we're looking to expanding that out to those other areas as well. We would like to improve our procurement process. We've got some bottlenecks that we're going to hopefully improve so that people can get licenses faster. And then upgrade. So we're currently sitting on 10.4, and I think we're going to be jumping to 2018.1 or 2. If it was up to me, I'd like to go all the way to the next one. But we have to be very careful. There's a lot of testing we have to do to ensure for a global bank to make sure that it works. But we're going to be talking about how we can do that more appropriately. How do we scale? For example, you guys all heard at the keynote the Tableau Prep editions, the Ask Data. All of these do have an inherent effect on back end, on the backgrounders, on the servers. We need to think about that so that we can be proactive to prepare for upgrades rather than waiting, and then we get long delays for getting it out to the public. And then we want to build stronger Tableau champions. We want to expand the Train the Trainer program so that more champions can come up and teach other people how to train and how to start these center of practices across the globe. So here are just a few takeaways that I wanted to give you. Some of you can ask me questions as well. But one of the things first thing you want to do is identify the strengths and weaknesses that you may have inherently with starting up a center of practice or a center of excellence. And take an agile approach. My worst fault for me was I wanted to take on the world right in the beginning. and I found myself failing too many times. So when I thought about it, we needed to come back with Tableau's help, take it little by little. Introduce a Tableau user group, maybe a little later once you start figuring out who your community is. But yeah, take an agile approach to it. Build strong partnership with your business friendlies, with your senior management. Get them involved. Show them the benefit hypothesis, right? What is it that Tableau can do for them? Make it simple and direct, and you'll see great results from doing so. And don't forget to communicate. And communicate does not mean sending out a slew of emails to every known person. That was one of my faults. I had emails going out, and I kept hearing people say, stop communicating to me, stop sending me emails. So what we did is we moved it more to our intranet platform and allowed them to be able to consume it rather than sending every new update via email. There is still some emails we have to do, like newsletters and so forth, but we've cut it down. And leverage the success of your peers. So myself, others you're going to see here at the Tableau conference are here to help, right? We're not on an island. We should all be working together to building a Tableau community and assisting in where we're excelling and where maybe we need some help from. And then focus on building your Tableau champion network. I can't stress enough that if you're a large organization, especially if you have a global footprint, you need these champions. You cannot do it yourself. You need to encourage them, make them visible, make them feel proud to be a part of advocating a product that is helping. When you do that, you're going to see them doing even more. And that is the foundation for where I'm seeing our growth and success across the global footprint. So I think I did pretty good on time. I did pretty good. So I wanted to open it up now to questions either for myself. Armin is here to answer questions. And we're just going to get, 1 second, we're going to get a roving mic here. Get it out there. You got it? Oh, perfect. Yeah. So let's see. Let's start right here in the front here, gentlemen. Maybe we can get somebody to help with the roving. There you go, Mike. Thank you. Oh. Yeah.
What's your approach to, I suppose, realize the benefits that the dashboard, the insights that the different teams develop, and how do you make it visible to senior management so you can continue, Tableau initiatives continue being funded?
You want to take the funding one?
I mean, the funding one it's a challenge in our organization like in every other, so it's a fight. Like we have to fight for, and define, what we think the benefits are going to be. And we go through that kind of on an annual basis. Again, the piece of my organization is now much smaller than the total organization of Tableau, so I presume others are going through that fight, but a little bit of it sells itself. The way we did it, and it sort of goes into your second question. I think Sal can add to it, but the way we've done it at sort of our senior management is we just take things that are in Excel or broken or slow, and we'll take that information and give it to one of our champions and turn it into a Tableau report in 24 hours. Because it's not that hard to do from an Excel file. And then we just give it to senior management and say, this is what the simple power of it is, that some report they may see every day, and that becomes the carrot.
Yep. Yeah, and while the businesses own a lot of the assets when it comes to getting their licensing and so forth, the exposure of successful launches to polished workbooks that are excelling in one part of the bank and others are just getting started. How you get that is we're using them. We're using the intranet sites that we have. We display them when we can, right? Some of it does have some confidential information on it. But then we make leverage of a newsletter. We have a quarterly newsletter where we get senior leaders to quote on the success. We showcase the accomplishments through their visuals. We give them a picture of what the visual is and what the benefits have been derived from it. So that's a good way for us to share that. Yep.
Again, we use a lot of analog-based, distribution of information. So we actually hand out the newsletter. We print it out and put it on people's desks. And because there's just too many emails, right? People just can't, do that. We don't do that for the entire globe. Probably should admit that in terms of the amount of recycling, but it ultimately works. That's what works, is people pick it up and read the newsletter. So.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Talha. I'm with LK Manufacturing. When I hear your story, it's actually very similar to ours. We're probably earlier in the journey. It started off within one part of the business, and then I'm within IT, but we quickly adopted it, made it our enterprise standard. One of the things that we're struggling with is how do the traditional BI tools, the data warehouse, coexist with Tableau? Is there a methodology or an approach that you've adopted to say, well, this kind of analytics is a perfect candidate for the data warehouse, and this for Tableau?
Yeah, so I mean, right off the bat, you're going to find that from a data modeling or data warehouse methodology, it's for Tableau specifically, it's good to look at that aggregated views, right? Not to say that you can't use a deep puddle in the secure data lakes, right, to do so, but the methodologies we've seen successful are at the aggregated sections of the data warehouse, right? Something also to keep in mind that for Deutsche Bank, as probably for many of you, Tableau had a very specific purpose to remove end-user developed applications from the community or from the organization. These are Excel-based, thick, driven applications, and the content, the data wasn't a lot, but they needed to get it pushed into a data warehouse, right? Then you have a more centralized portal for you to be able to extract and build visualizations on. So the idea is that many of the data warehouse methodologies outside of, we don't really touch OLAP models much, but most of them work very well with Tableau. Question here? Yeah.
Hi, this is Ambrish Mahajan from Prudential. My question is around your journey from being sort of an early adopter to what you are right now. And typically on this journey, the first hurdle you come across is risk and compliance, and then the second one is IT. And you talked a little bit about IT, but I just wanted to get an understanding of how those conversations went as you went on your journey, because typically risk and compliance are worried about, is this the right data, who should see this data, who shouldn't, and then IT has their own concerns about roles and responsibilities and what you do and what they do. So could you give a little bit of insight on how those conversations went?
Sure, I'll give you some insight on the compliance part. You can talk about the technology side. But from a compliance perspective, same pushback, right? Initially it was, this data hasn't been cleansed. How do you know if this is right data? And there was a lot of conversations around that. We ended up having to do, again, it goes back to very simple mechanisms, is we ended up like putting large disclaimers on top of it, almost sort of a watermark type of analysis to say, this is in draft form, or this is something to be used just for management analysis at the same time. And then we started to really make the argument, like, somebody can send around an Excel spreadsheet all they want around the organization, right? And that's not considered golden source data. And so this is just another tool that is better than Excel. But it really took the explanation with compliance, but then going back to getting senior management to say, I really want this. Right? I want to see this report every single day, and that's, you see quickly, compliance can adjust their thesis.
Yeah, and from an IT perspective, we had to partner with that same thought process of keeping data secure. So security was key for this whole journey, right? Because again, there are groups like the finance, groups in compliance, and even in HR. So we would encourage a dual layer of security, going back to the data warehouse, encouraging that a lot of that's handling role-based there, but then we would help them with regards to the second tier of within Tableau to provide that kind of security. That way then it helped support the risk that they were going to take to be able to ensure that there wouldn't be any issues with Tableau specifically.
I have a question here.
Yep.
Doug Ranahan, IQVIA. We're starting on the journey of creating I'm starting on the journey of creating a center of excellence, and one of the challenges that I'm running into is we have 3 Tableau servers spread across the globe in different business units, and we're going to try and be coalescing those, and everyone's got their special case of why they're special and specialer than everyone else. How have you addressed that, with kind of your isolated pockets and bringing them together?
Yeah, I mean, right now, as you heard, we have one US-based instance that's 24 core that's actually supporting a majority of our global footprints. We do have a separate dedicated instance, and it might help for me to explain a little bit about dedicated and shared, right? So We have a very diversified portfolio of businesses across the globe, right? And from HR to different groups, they're all using one server over here. Then we have a dedicated server specifically for compliance and risk. They want to be separated. They want it dedicated, kind of like what you described, multiple servers, right? We are not encouraging these dedicated servers for a lot of apparent reasons. We would like that to be a part of we grow out clusters to be able to support more of them, plus the cost model. Cost model is extremely hard to justify, whatever the amount is for one server for one particular group when that cost could be charged back across all users across different domains and different groups. So that's why the justification for us would be to try to build out these unique servers. Unless you come across, the only other challenge we've had is like data privacy laws in some areas, crossing data over. So in those times, we may have to make some adjustments.
Yeah, I think, and by the way, we're still not perfect.
No.
We had a group in London that was, the FX group in London was in their own world, and we're refusing to kind of be a part of the Center of Excellence, be part of the architecture we created, and they're now moving over.
Oh,
but it took me calling the head of the business and be like, what are you guys doing? You're in left field. And I showed them some of the things that the team, South team had created, and said, you guys are losing the benefit of all this. So, but it's not perfect.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of, push and pull.
Yep.
Sal and Armin, with 5 minutes left, to your right, 2 more questions.
Oh my gosh, the voice, I didn't even hear where it's coming from. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ramesh from University of California, San Francisco. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and your learnings. I have 2 questions. On the training side, I know you have put the roadmap and then you organize the training for the tool. How do you train people on the data? Because, without knowing the data, just the tool is, it's not sufficient. So if you could help us understand, how did you organize the training on the data? And the second question is, on your onboarding process, when you engage people, that half-hour conversation, how do you decide whether the person is asking to be a developer or an explorer or a viewer? So.
Yeah, so again, I think the first question was on how we would do training with groups who would like to use their own data. General data, yeah. So what we typically do, the training is done from both from a desktop 1, desktop 2 methodology. They're using some generic data right now for the basic principles and fundamentals of building a dashboard, right? When they get to the next stage, we encourage them to use their own data sets. Now, in some cases, we can, being an employee, can see their data. Some cases, we can't. So it's not perfect, right? It's very difficult, but we seem to get around it. We allow them to mask some of the data before we can come in and sit with them, whether it's a doctor session or a workshop. But that typically helps accelerate training faster than it is to use some superstore model, which really is good for the basics, but not when you want to start learning how to put insights together. Yep.
And the second question was on the roles of creator, explorer, viewer.
Yeah, so we do that during our engagement model. We identify who they are, what roles they're looking to doing. Is there going to be like one developer and then 1,000 interactors? We get all that big picture. That way, then we can help scale them and start talking governance about what they should be doing, what roles they should be looking into accomplishing.
I have the last question here.
Right in the middle here? Yeah, I know. She's been raising her hand. I've been missing her.
Thank you. Hi, Tori Sparks with Mondelez International. Thanks for your time. A couple of questions, one quick. Out of curiosity, what platform is your user community built on? And then secondly, I sit in IT, but I'm business engagement with our strategy, insights, and analytics team. And some of the feedback we've gotten, I'm based in our global headquarters in Deerfield, Illinois, but some of the feedback we've gotten from the regions is that it feels like the global team is really pushing a lot of stuff to the regions without that two-way communication. And when you were talking about really identifying your Tableau champions, you said it was really important to get people in the regions. How did you do that? What was your process for identifying your Tableau champions? And then you also talked about the benefit of being a champion. What are the benefits at DB for being a Tableau champion? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
sorry.
The brain always remembers the last word. So let's do the champions first. So the champions are identified. They were identified. We had a group, when I first launched, we had 5. but they were nowhere, they were all in Cary, North Carolina. And we didn't know how many. We actually had one, Quinton, who is in Germany, who actually was part of the GCT team and built a lot of it. So I needed to figure out how to get more champions. And what I did find out is that the data scientist community, the strong analyst community, were already eager to be a part of, and they were already using Tableau, I just didn't know it yet. So as I mentioned previously, we also had the Tableau discussion board. And there I started to find out people who were answering a lot of questions, both difficult and easy. I contacted them and got them into our repository we were growing. So we started getting names of individuals, right? We sent out a survey. I probably should have mentioned that as well when everyone was here. Surveys are very important, because in the survey I asked, would you like to be a Tableau champion? And we got 40 more people want, and then we grew that out, gave them appropriate training. What does it take to be a champion? What does it mean to advocate? What does it mean when you're going to be called on to do a doctor session? But none of that would be helpful if they didn't know the benefit of being a champion. So for us, the benefit was, exposure at a very high level about what your accomplishments are and how it impacts the bank. 2, we give some recommendations to their management, helps them with their career path. And the third one we're working on right now is a more of an incentive program where they get high marks, which would lead to, whatever we can do at Deutsche Bank to give to them. But something either, a prize that we get from swag, from Tableau, a water bottle goes a long way in the heart of a Tableau champ. You'd be surprised. I'm like, but they wouldn't want that.
But I think also philosophically, you'll see that the community really strives to help each other out, too, because everybody struggles with their data, right? And so you can talk to any organization or any part of the world, and it's just one of the most frustrating things in the world when you can't sort of access your data, and then you sort of get a piece of it with Tableau. And so we find energized folks across the globe, and it's hard to pick them, right? You'd think it's whether it has to do with youth or whether it has to do with what part of the organization they sit in. There's no rhyme or reason to it, frankly. Mm-hmm. We get people, I have a trader on my desk who's one of these old grumpy traders. He's like 45 years old, and he is really one of these like really curmudgeon-y kind of guys, and he's one of our biggest creator of reports. He just loves it because he can get data himself and doesn't have to deal with lots of people. So I think just getting the word out, but you'll be really surprised how once you sort of expose the fact that it's social, how many people kind of will
They'll
help
come
each other
to you.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it for our time. So again, thank you all for
The platform that your community was built on, Sal?
the platform for what?
Your
again?
community was built.
Your community was built on?
Oh, the internet? Oh, that's a great question.
Sal, we'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, come to me afterwards. I'll think about exactly what that platform. I have my admin over there. He can ask that question.
Big thank you. And please complete the survey, as Sal had up on the previous slide.
Yes,
Thank you, Sal
please.
and Armin, for your time.